In all honesty, I feel really bad for Pennywise because this clown right here was actually terrifying. Joker. Now, Joker is the latest DC Comics movie that for the very first time focuses uniquely on the Joker and his background. The film tells the story of a man named Arthur Fleck, a guy with a lot of psychological and emotional issues. And as the world around him begins to become increasingly more hostile towards him, he turns into a sociopathic clown. And now we have one of the most random, one of the most unique, and one of the most awesome comic book movies of all time. And right out the gate, this movie isn't actually a comic book movie. Yes, it is based on the DC comic book character Joker, but nothing about this movie screams comic book. This has been one of my most anticipated films of the year. I've been looking forward to this ever since I heard that Joaquin was going to play the Joker. Then I saw the first trailers. I was like, wow, this looks like a horse of a different color. Guess what it is? This movie blew me away. It's a modern masterpiece. But let's go down the list. First of all, Joaquin. Oh my God, this guy crushes it, and it's tough. I mean, he had to follow Heath Ledger. I know technically it was Jared Leto who had to follow Heath Ledger, but a lot of people really didn't like him. And just like Heath Ledger, Joaquin made this character his own. It's a completely unique, new, and fresh take on the character. And a lot of praise has to go to Todd Phillips because, damn, it's the guy who directed The Hangover. And now this movie reminded me of Scorsese classics like Taxi Driver or King of Comedy. I was taken aback how real, rough, and tough this movie was. But let's get back to Joaquin because he portrays this very layered character. There are so many emotions to this guy. There are all these subtle nuances of a man that is psychologically damaged, yet hopeful that the world can be a better place. But there's also the tendency towards violence, and he emotes that perfectly. Every single time this guy lets out a laughter, it feels like he's actually hurting. And once this damaged person emerges as the Joker, he seems happy for the very first time in his life. I love that portrayal. And Joaquin nails it. He killed it. I hope that he's up for an Academy Award. Actually, I hope he wins it. But the direction of the movie is also epic. This movie looks like an 80s Scorsese film, as I mentioned before. Gotham City looks like New York of the 80s. This movie also has a lot of political nuances, wealth disparity, angry mobs trying to blame someone, and overall a more frightening and violent society. And he sees himself as the answer to all of that suffering. Now, Robert De Niro was in the trailers, and yes, he's good, but neither him nor Zazie Beetz are actually important characters. Every single character in the film, other than the Joker, is just there to shape him, to whip him into shape to become the guy that comic book fans know and love. But then again, this movie is, as mentioned before, not very comic booky. It is rough, it is dark, it is a psychological thriller and drama about this one particular deranged guy who becomes even more deranged and even more frightening. Like, for example, take Heath Ledger's Joker. You remember the pencil trick? I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It was still funny. It was played for laughs. This time around, however, whenever we see violence on screen, nothing is funny about it. It's dark, it's rough, and it's the realism, because this movie is so incredibly realistic that you could have told the story without using the name Joker. You could have told the story about a similar guy who went nuts because of his environment and because of his pre-existing conditions. Now, there are some tie-ins to the Batman universe, but they're very subtle and they worked perfectly. Overall, this movie was brilliantly acted, brilliantly written, brilliantly shot, and in my humble opinion, a masterpiece and one of the best movies I've seen all year. It will end up on my top 10 favorite movie list by the end of the year. I'm certain of that. Because Joker gets the gold medal. Once again, I was taken aback by this movie. But then again, this is not an easy watch. This is not your typical comic book movie. You can't compare it to the DCEU. You definitely can't compare it to the MCU. But you can't even compare it to Watchmen or the Dark Knight trilogy, because all of these movies still have that comic book vibe. The Dark Knight was realistic, but it still had comic booky moments. This movie, none of that. None of that. It's a realistic depiction of a man going mad, going down that really dark and twisted rabbit hole and being responsible for horrific, violent acts. Which is why I don't see myself rewatching it a lot, because it's a lot to take in. But damn, was it good. Damn, was it a masterpiece, and I can't wait to hear about your opinion. So Joker, what are your thoughts? Have you guys seen it? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below, and thank you guys as always for watching. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, then just subscribe.